Khamzat is a straight murderer. He's a killer.
I've been in this game my whole life. I've never seen anything like him.
I'm gonna take everything from this UFC, bro. Now I am UFC, bro.
But that guy seems scary, though.
He's scary as fuck. He's fun to watch. He comes in with all of this energy, and then he's just got so much confidence.
Khamzat Chimaev, the hype is real.
Of course it's real, brother. He's not hype. King is here, bro.
Every time that Khamzat Chimaev stepped into the octagon, someone's legacy was about to crumble. He didn't just defeat fighters, he erased their reputations. From submitting veterans to ragdolling former champions, Chimaev has left a body count of high-profile victims. Fighters like John Phillips and Robert Whittaker stood in his way, but one by one, they all fell. And today, we're telling their stories. These are the victims of Khamzat Chimaev. Back in July of 2020, UFC on ESPN 13, Khamzat Chimaev made his Octagon debut against veteran John Phillips. On paper, it looked like just another early prelim, but in reality, it was the birth of something terrifying. Few expected fireworks as Chimaev was a complete unknown, stepping in on short notice to replace Dusko Todorovic. With barely a whisper of hype outside of Sweden, across from him stood John Phillips, a seasoned middleweight veteran with some serious knockout power. Phillips thought that he was about to give the rookie a harsh welcome to the UFC. Bear trap, dragging him across the canvas with cold efficiency. Every move was deliberate, and the pressure was suffocating, already drowning under the weight of his pressure. Then came the finish, a vicious neck crank, locked in so tight that Phillips had no choice but to tap. When the tap came, Chimaev stood up with a cold, knowing smile, like a man who expected nothing less. And with just one fight, Khamzat Chimaev made it clear the division had a serious problem. On July 25th, just 10 days after his UFC debut, Chimaev accepted another fight, this time dropping down to welterweight to face McKe at UFC on ESPN 14. Once again, it was a short-notice matchup. McKe came in confident, promising to test Chimaev's cardio and drag the fight into deep waters. But Chimaev didn't bring a fight, he brought a storm. From the opening seconds, Chimaev, he dominated. He dragged McKe across the cage to his own corner, like a predator returning home with its prey. And from there, it was a one-sided execution. Blow after blow landed clean. McKe folded under the pressure, buried beneath a barrage of strikes. The referee jumped in and it was over. And there it happened again. No wild celebration, no emotion, just a man that had a cold, knowing smile. With 2 UFC wins in 10 days, he redefined the meaning of dominance. And at that point, doubting him wasn't risky, it was basically suicidal. But even McKe's loss couldn't match the speed of his next victim's demise. Months later, on September 19th of 2020 at UFC Fight Night 178, Chimaev stood across the cage from veteran Gerald Meerschaert, a jiu-jitsu specialist known for his slick submissions and his durability. This was supposed to be Chimaev's real test. A clash of experience versus unstoppable momentum. Chimaev entered as the UFC's fastest rising prospect, riding a wave of hype after dominating his first 2 opponents in just 10 days. But Meerschaert wasn't impressed. He dismissed the hype, claiming that Chimaev hadn't faced anyone like him and promised to expose the holes in the rookie's game. But Chimaev had heard it all before, and this time he came to make an example. The disrespect boiled over when the UFC controversially pre-booked Chimaev's next fight before this one had even happened. Meerschaert took offense to this, but for Chimaev, it was already personal. From the opening bell, Chimaev stormed forward without hesitation. Then, boom, a single overhand right, and Meerschaert collapsed before he even hit the floor. The fight was over in just 17 seconds, the commentators erupted and the crowd gasped in disbelief, stunned at how a submission specialist never even got to attempt to take down. When it was over, Meerschaert was humbled as Chimaev claimed another performance of the night, and whispers grew even louder. Who can stop this guy? But Meerschaert wouldn't be the last, because a year later, another victim tried to step in his way and learn the hard way, and it didn't even take a round. On October 30th of 2021 at UFC 267, Li Jingliang, known as the Leech, entered the Octagon as a ranked welterweight with granite toughness. Across from him was Khamzat Chimaev, returning after a long layoff, eager to remind everyone why he was so feared. In the lead-up, Li didn't flinch. He promised not to be a pushover and delivered a bold line to the fans. It's the Leech versus the Wolf. Let's see who eats who. Fans expected a stand-up war, but Chimaev had no intention of giving him space to breathe. At the opening bell, Chimaev lifted Li clean off the ground, carried him across the cage like a trophy, and slammed him into the canvas, all while talking to Dana White cage side. Chimaev continued to inflict relentless damage without giving Li any chance to adapt, forcing a takedown as Li struggled, but Chimaev's grips were as hard as iron. Then came the suffocation. Chimaev forced another takedown and quickly transitioned to a rear naked choke. As Li looked for breath, he went dark. Li didn't tap verbally, he tapped unconscious. The arena went silent as Chimaev flexed his choke artistry, leaving the Leech looking like an amateur. It was his fourth straight UFC finish and another clear warning to anyone that was doubting his game. But after Li, there was another elite contender who thought that he could grind Chimaev down, and he paid dearly for it. On April 9th of 2022 at UFC 273, Khamzat Chimaev faced his biggest test yet, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion and a former title challenger, Gilbert Burns. Chimaev was undefeated and untouched, but untested against someone with Burns' grappling credentials. Burns wasn't just another name, he was the real thing. Burns welcomed the challenge, confident that his ground game would neutralize Chimaev's pressure. Fans dubbed it the grappler versus the wrestler, with many tipping Burns to survive the storm, but Chimaev was determined to prove that he was more than just the hype. He prepared for the fight of his life. The fight was an all-out brawl from the opening bell. Both men landed heavy shots, but Chimaev's pace and his pressure stole the momentum. Round after round, they traded. Burns landed clean punches, shot takedowns, and tried to drag it into deep water, but Chimaev's pressure never wavered. Chimaev imposed his wrestling. He smothered Burns in the clinch, and he never let the pace slow down for even a second. After 3 brutal rounds, Chimaev earned a unanimous decision. The crowd roared, and commentators praised it as a fight of the year contender. He beat a top-ranked contender at his own game, but Burns still earned his bonus and the respect of the crowd. But Chimaev left no doubt. He wasn't just smashing rookies, he was going 3 hard rounds with one of the best in the world and still looking like a nightmare. But not every opponent lasted 3 rounds. In fact, the next one barely survived 2 minutes. At UFC 279, after missing weight for a highly anticipated bout with Nate Diaz, Chimaev was rebooked in a catchweight fight against fan favorite Kevin Holland, a slick striker known for his knockout power and his non-stop trash talk. While Chimaev was fresh off of dominating everyone that he touched, Holland, he laughed it off in the build-up, promising a fun, striking, heavy war of a fight. He may have underestimated what was coming his way, but Chimaev had no interest in playing Holland's game. From the opening bell, Chimaev charged forward. He wrapped Kevin Holland up and dragged him to the ground. Then he locked in a Darce choke. There was no escape. And just 2 minutes and 13 seconds into round 1, Holland tapped out. The crowd erupted as nobody could believe how fast it ended. Holland was left gasping while Chimaev barely broke a sweat. Chimaev had choked out another veteran in record time. His dominance wasn't hype. it was inescapable. And at that moment, everyone believed that he was unstoppable. And now on to his next opponent, and that came at UFC 294 when Kamaru Usman, the former welterweight king, stepped up on short notice to fight at middleweight. And Chimaev didn't get the finish, but he instead was arguably more terrifying than ever before. Usman's wrestling pedigree had many believing that he could neutralize Chimaev's game. Some analysts actually predicted that Usman would expose the rising star's cardio, but Chimaev, fueled by doubters, he stepped in to flip the script. From the opening bell, Chimaev shot for a takedown, dominating round 1 with suffocating top control as Usman struggled under pressure. Usman survived all 3 rounds, but he was pinned, he was smothered, and he was neutralized in ways that we hadn't seen in Chimaev's most dominant outings. Usman rallied late, but Chimaev's early dominance earned him a majority decision victory after 3 hard rounds. The crowd erupted, and commentators called it a statement win over a pound-for-pound great. You see, Chimaev, he hadn't just beaten Usman, he neutralized him. He out-grappled a man considered one of the best wrestler boxers in MMA history. And then the world was looking for a worthy opponent, someone to finally put an end to Chimaev's dominance and give him his first loss in the UFC. And then they decided to send in the Reaper. At UFC 308 in October of 2024, Khamzat Chimaev stepped into the octagon for the toughest test of his career. Across from him stood Robert Whittaker, the former middleweight champion, the man who'd gone 5 rounds with Israel Adesanya. This wasn't just a regular fight, it was the proving ground for Chimaev's title ambitions. Whittaker kept it respectful, but fans and analysts predicted that his experience would slow the hype train down. Pundits warned Chimaev that he had never faced anyone quite like Whittaker before. Chimaev, he heard it all, and he arrived determined to prove that he belonged amongst the best. From the opening bell, Chimaev wasted no time, pressuring Whittaker with relentless wrestling as he struggled while fighting back in a desperate attempt to escape. But Chimaev kept dragging him back to the mat and grinding him down. Then came the finish. Chimaev locked in a brutal face crank, dislocating Whittaker's jaw in real time. Whittaker tapped out in about 3 minutes and 34 seconds into round 1. Joe Rogan and MMA pundits declared that he deserved a title shot as he ran through Whittaker without even getting touched. Chimaev did to Robert Whittaker what no other man has done before. Not Adesanya, not Romero, not Till, only Boris. And he did it in 1 round. Time and time again, Chimaev showed that he is simply built differently. And now, with a broken jaw left behind and a statement win on his record, Chimaev didn't just make a case for the title shot, he became the problem that Du Plessis now has to figure out a way to solve. But who do you think is going to come out on top, Chimaev or Dricus Du Plessis? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe and turn on those bell notifications so that you never miss another MMA-filled video.